review is the end of the season opportunity to showcase all the hard work of the students and staff.
This entire show is a tribute to her.
It's just a huge show.
She's basically like my second mom.
I think it's the same reaction with everybody.
Came back with that it was malignant and that she did have cancer.
She's worried about her health. She's worried about how it would impact her studio.
She tried to be positive through the whole chemo experience. When they did the CAT scan,
we found out that the cancer treatment hadn't worked at all.
And then on May 12th, she passed away.
One thing I really wanted was for her to go to the studio one last time, just because it was important to her. I remember us discussing closing down the studio, and there was one day at the hospital that Erika had come to visit, and I think it was JORGEE, Erika, and I outside that hospital room. And I said, you know, don't feel any pressure to take this studio on. I mean, you are a great teacher, you've got a career, you love to travel, and you know, this is a commitment. It's going to tie you down. So I thought that we were still on track for the studio to close. And then I believe it was one day here, and I don't know what the conversation was, but they emerged out, and it was Erika was going to take over the studio. And I thought that was one of the greatest things. I mean, she was definitely at the top of the list. If the studio was to keep going, I couldn't think of a better person to run it.
Well, I'm actually going to keep teaching at Capitol Hill High School, and I'm going to run the studio. Martha and I have really become partners in this, and Martha will be the runner during the day, and I will be at work during the day, and then as soon as work's over on certain nights, I will run to the studio and teach all night.
Shannon would never force the studio on Erika or put her in that position. But I think inside, she just would have loved the fact that Erika would want to carry on the studio. And when that happened, then I think it just filled Shannon's heart with a lot of joy.
I had talked to many people at that point, and they said, you know, they knew that Shannon was considering closing it. And so they said, you know, JORGEE, that studio's got a fantastic reputation. I wish she would have other plans on that. And we talked about it, because I'm not going to push her, that's her business, you know. And so she finally decided that she would keep it open if my daughter, Erika, who's 26 now, would take it over. That would be what she wanted to happen. I think she agrees to do it because I think it was the right thing to do, and I think she knows she could handle it, and she knows what Shannon's dreams, passions were, and she could continue those. I think that's why she agreed to it.
Shannon Yolanda Calderon Primeau went home to be with the Lord on May the 12th, 2015. She met her husband, Ed, Silver Spring, Maryland, at a gathering with mutual friends. Shannon graduated from Northwest Classic, attended OCCC before purchasing the dance studio from Jimmy Carol Allen Crow, becoming proprietor of the Everything Goes Dance Studio. She spent 17 years as the director and owner, spreading her passion for dance, making it her mission to share the joys of dance with Oklahomans through teaching performances to countless students. Shannon taught jazz, tap, ballet, Latin, hip hop, and flamenco.
As you know, she was given one of God's greatest gifts. Passion. And if you look around here today, you can see that each and every one of us were touched by that passion.
She was my first dance teacher in jazz, tap, and flamenco. My boss when I worked for her at the dance studio. My dance partner, and of course, my aunt. As my teacher, I remember her teaching me that it didn't matter if you were dancing for thousands of people or for one person. That one person deserves a great show and your best effort. I remember her telling us kids before we would go on stage, "Okay guys, there's a lot of important people out there. We have to put on a great show, so give it your all." I always remember feeling like I was going to throw up. I can't recall ever meeting those important people, but I think, looking back on it now, every single person in the audience was that important person.
When I walked into a room with Shannon, she made me feel 10 feet tall. She was so engaging. Everyone mattered. It didn't matter who they were. And she treated them with love and respect. And when Shannon was in the room, there were no wallflowers. She would peel you right off. She just draws you in. But she learned that from her family. And I love this family. Shirley and George, you gave me the greatest gift of all. You gave me your daughter, Shannon. We had many pastimes together. She loved to travel, and I was able to take her to a lot of places. When I started writing them down, I couldn't believe all the ones we went to. We went to Florida and Philadelphia, Annapolis, DC, Virginia, Delaware, Michigan, Vegas, Seattle, Vancouver, thanks Mom, Boston, Caribbean cruise, New York State, and her favorite, New York City. Oh, she lit up when we were walking down the streets in Times Square, or to take in a show. On Sundays, we would go into the historic district, and we would tell realtors that we were looking for a home for one of our relatives. But we ended up buying one of those historic homes before time than not.
Shannon had this thing called duende. When Shannon let out her duende, she could make people feel things that they didn't even know they could feel. Emotions that they had been searching for that had been lost. She gave people hope.
And then there was her true calling, dance. I may be known as Master Chief Ed Primeau in the Navy, but in the dance world, I'm just known as Miss Shannon's husband. I've been voluntold for workshops to up the guy quota, asked to help up stages and props, get things from point A to point B, and even work on the show. It was all worth it to see her dance. She was beautiful, moving with such grace and freedom. I love to watch her dance.
She wanted me to make sure I told you all that the studio would continue to flourish, with me continuing in her place. She had been training me all my life. God gave me her for this moment. Her name will never fade or be forgotten. I know she affected many lives, and I know she gave many people so many opportunities. She was a pioneer in the Hispanic community, and I promised her that I would continue her legacy in the same ways. And she will forever be in my choreography and my heart. I know she will be guiding me throughout this new journey, and I will always ask her for guidance when in need. She has brought my family and the community closer together as one. And I hope that is something that never fades, for I know she will never fade in me. Ole to Shannon.
But most of all, I loved it when she'd take my hand. And she'd say, "Dance with me, Eduardo." I love that. She knew the meaning of hard work and long hours because that's what she did in her studio. 17 years. Last couple of years, over 400 students and 15 staff and faculty. Even if you took an average of 275 students a year, that's over 4,600 students she's touched. And the number's higher than that. That is amazing. She definitely worked harder than I ever did. One of our hardest times was when I went to Iraq for a year. On the day I was leaving, I was packing my things, and she came in the bedroom and handed me a bag with 365 Hershey Kisses. And she told me that there was one for each day from her that I'd be gone a kiss. Funny thing is the chocolate and the desert, they don't go well together. And when I got over there, I pulled it out, and it had melted and reformed into this big chocolate clump with shards of foil and little Hershey's pennants protruding out everywhere. And so we laughed a lot about that. It was a big kiss, so that was good. Punky, you gave so much. Your love of life, passion, and spirit were infectious. Definitely made me a better person. There's a quote from a TV show I remember when I was a young person. I never forgot it. It said, happiness comes but once in a man's lifetime. And you've given me more than my share. You certainly did that, Punky. And I love you. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, please give a big, warm bienvenidos.
This morning, I woke up around 5, which is usual for me, and got ready, cleaned the house, thought about everything Shannon would want to go over with the students and the parents. Everything was really calm. I arrived here around 7:30, met with the crew at Rose State. They're so considerate and so sympathetic with me, and parents started arriving, and we started on time, and we're actually running a little ahead right now, and that's great. It's great.
I choreographed the last 45 seconds. She did the rest. I don't think she ever really saw the end of the dance. So.
And I just thought about her, and I know she's here right now. I know she's looking at this and just, well, I hope that she's saying, good job.
I don't know the name of it, but when I hear that song, I know. And there was a girl that had the same dress on. So when she would turn around and her back was to the audience, it kind of made me think it was her.
Well, it was a bittersweet feeling, but there was kind of a, I'm going to use the word easiness. I think Erika just kind of flowed, just stepped right on in there, and she'd been to many of those. She knew what Shannon expected. On the other hand, I was like, I hope she doesn't get overwhelmed, you know, but she did very well. And she said she felt like Shannon was with her, and Shannon was, you know, guiding her how to do things. And I agree with that. I think she did a really good job.
The other thing you may have heard about is the butterfly flying around. And, you know, we equated that to Shannon because there's a story tied in with her with the butterfly. And you know, I've been to many of those reviews at Rose State, and there was never a butterfly flying around.
You know, I heard little kids right before they would go on stage, and they said, "We've got to do this for Miss Shannon," and so you could hear all the, even though there were people that were crying, you know, really sad.
The show, how it affected me, there's a couple numbers that Shannon did all the time, and those are the ones that, you know, really touched me, and you know, they were tears of joy, but they hurt.
My brother Ernie is incredibly emotional. because he's worked with her very closely over the years. He's the hip hop teacher, and he felt that she was there, her presence were there. My mom, everybody.
But she had it in her mind she wanted that show to happen. And then Erika came with the great news that she wanted to take the studio. When Shannon bought the studio in 1996 from Jimmy and Carol, so I'm sure that there was a legacy that she wanted to keep going, but in the end she made it her own, and she took it to the next level. And that's the success I want Erika to have. Obviously she'll always pay tribute to her aunt, but Shannon wouldn't expect anything less for Erika to pay tribute, but at the same time take hold of the reins and make it her own.
That was her life. That was so important in her life. And you know, if your flower fell off during your performance, if your hat fell off, you keep going. And I guess that's the way she feels. If I pass away, the show will go on. And it's just, she's so strong-hearted, and one of those kids, they worked so hard to learn those dances, and how exciting it is to be on the big stage with the lights and the people clapping for you. And so she wanted those kids to have that experience. I mean, she wouldn't have taken that away for anything. She wouldn't have.
I'm not wired like Shannon. I think it's the artist in her. And Shannon has a passion. I don't have it. I fed off it. But when you're that passionate about something, you want it to go on forever. You want it to be shared as far and wide as it can be shared. And that's her legacy.